Hey guys, my name is Nicolette Mashile. I am also known as the Financial Bunny. Welcome to the Financial Bunny TV. Today I'm talking all things tax-free savings accounts in the spirit of Savings Month. I thought this would be the perfect financial product to speak a little bit about. But before I get into all of that, do you remember none of my videos constitute as financial advice? If you are looking for financial advice, please do speak to somebody that is certified and registered with the FSCA. So how would you like to get a return of 20.4% annually on an investment fund? Well, this is the fund return that is projected for my TFSA that currently sits with Coronation. It is called the Top 20 TFIA, right? So the TFI stands for tax-free investment, and that's sitting with Coronation. It is, of course, a tax-free savings account. Now, before I get into all of that, I must tell you, so a couple of years ago, I was utterly disgusted by a Coronation professional. I think he's a financial advisor that works there, who literally broke down how much he dislikes content creator in the financial space because, they're so terrible. And I was like, I took it on the chin because I was like, you know what? Everybody's got their own opinion on content creators in the finance space, and I'm not going to fight about it. I was actually at a financial advisor conference. I was emceeing it, and there's this girl who's loud. I was wearing a pink dress, and I was speaking about, content within the finance space and how we need to demystify it. And he was like, you know what? Honestly speaking, I don't think anybody who does not work for any financial institution should be speaking about financial content. And I was like, oh my goodness. But he did speak about this top 20 fund that they've got. And I was very intrigued by it, because just because you're hating on me doesn't mean that I'm going to let my annoyance pass me up on great products. So I went to look for it, and I found this TFSA. I think they've also got another fund that is also called the Top 20, but this one specifically is their TFSA product, right? I started on it, and I've been really, really excited in terms of what I could potentially get as a return. So I'm going to be speaking about that a little bit because I think it makes a great contrast to what the TFSA was and how it evolved into allowing other asset classes to be included in the TFSA. So just for those who don't know what a TFSA is, it's a tax-free savings account. It was introduced back in 2015 by National Treasury, and basically it's meant to encourage South Africans, ordinary South Africans, to be able to save and invest more money. And this is specifically created for any type of savings. Are you saving for a child's education? Are you saving for, future wealth? Whatever it is that you want to be saving for, you are allowed to use it. However, it does come with a couple of caveats. One of the biggest ones is that it has a set of rules that need to be followed. The first one is that you have a lifetime limit of 500,000 Rand. You cannot invest or save more than 500,000 Rand per lifetime. So every single identification number in South Africa can only save up to 500,000 Rand. That also puts us into another brand of a limit that it has, and that limit is that you have to save or can only save up to 36,000 Rand per year. Now, why is this important? It's important because think about it this way. The rich people in this country who have 500,000 Rand lying around could simply take that 500,000 Rand, put it into an account, and then sit for the next 10 years, and they would get a great return of, let's say, using the Coronation one, 20.4% every single year on 500,000 Rand. We don't have a 500,000 Rand that's sitting around. So the government is kind of leveling the playing ground, and they're saying, well, we're going to put a limit on this. So 36,000 per financial year. Every single year, you can only put in 36,000 Rand so that the people who have the 500,000 Rand don't have an advantage over those who do not have it. But also, of course, government is not trying to lose all of that tax. You know what I mean? And already they're making this a tax-free. So they're trying to limit as much as possible what is going to be regarded as a tax-free. Now, the portion of it being tax-free is also important because it means that the amount that you are contributing, any dividends that you're earning, any interest return that you're earning, any capital gains that you're earning, any type of appreciation, every single return that you are making on that money will be tax-free. So by the time you want to withdraw it, no tax will be levied on it. Excuse me. And that's why it's important for me to mention the next portion of this, right? Sorry. The next portion is that if you do go above the 36,000 every single year, whatever in excess you have contributed above the 36,000, government is going to charge you a 40% flat interest, tax amount on that, or tax percentage on that amount. So anything in excess of the 36,000 every single year, SARS is going to charge you 40% for tax purposes. And if you go above the 500, anything that is above the 500,000, again, 40% tax on it. So don't go over the 40%, the 36,000 annual limit or the 500,000 lifetime limit, because there's really no point in doing that, right? The tax amount is just too high. Now, the last part of the rules or set of rules that you need to consider is that you can't replace what you withdraw. So that's why in a previous video, I spoke a little bit about why the tax-free savings account is not ideal for emergency savings and those kind of savings. It is a product that you have to think long-term growth when you're thinking about it, or long-term income, depending on what your goal is. So you will see with my Coronation one, I'm really chasing growth and long-term growth on that. I'm chasing appreciation. So it's not interest return or interest income return that I'm chasing. It is more a long-term product that I've taken on, right? And this is important because it means that I wouldn't after a year say I want to withdraw that money, because then I will be disturbing the compounding effect on that account. So it's not an account that you should be withdrawing from, but life happens. Life does indeed happen. And if you find yourself in a situation where you have to withdraw from your tax-free savings account, it is important to remember you cannot replace. So let's say by November, you have saved up to like 20,000 Rand and you have an emergency, right? If you withdraw 10,000, it means that by the end of the financial year, if you do religiously still contribute, you probably will have 26,000 Rand in total, but you can't replace that 10,000 Rand that you withdrew, because the government says the limit is 36,000 Rand, nothing more. If you do put more than that, again, it will be taxed at 40%. Whatever you have in excess of the 36,000 will then be charged at 40%. Now, why the Coronation one and not the original tax-free savings account? Let me explain that by explaining what it was and what it evolved to. The original Makoya tax-free savings accounts were usually sitting with banks and some asset managers, and they were the traditional tax-free savings account. So these were accounts that were invested in the money market, right? Your money was still staying in cash form, right? So in whatever interpretation you want to put that. So these were savings accounts. So think about a high yield savings account. This was something similar. Think about a money market account. This was something similar, right? However, what has now evolved is that you get these kind of formation like the Coronation one, which is the TFI, which is a tax-free investment account, right? These are now more your money being invested in assets like equity, like bonds, like real estate, right? So it's no longer just sitting in the money market. It has now expanded to investments. This specific one that I'm sitting with, the asset allocation, and you will see it on screen now, is of different types of individual shares in different companies, right? So I've got Nedbank there, I've got Process there. So there's quite a number of them that are making up the asset allocation. And what you will see is that 99.7% of where my assets are sitting is in growth, and then only 0.3% sits in the income space. Because as I said, this is specifically for me for long-term growth purposes. So I am looking to get that 20.4%. However, it's also important to understand that it is dependent on your cash flow. So when do you put in this 36,000 limit, right? Because month number 1, you might be sitting in 3,000, month number 2, 6,000, month number 3 is 9,000 Rand. So it's not like you're putting in 36,000 as a lump sum at once. So that's also very important for you to be cognizant of. So the total return that you might potentially get on this might be slightly lower than 20.4% per annum, and that's simply because of cash flow and how you are putting your money in. But ideally, the 20.4% is what is the maximum that they are projecting that you could get off this specific account. Now, This is important because you get a tax-free savings account and then you get a tax-free shares account, which this falls under. This tax-free investment account falls under what we call the tax-free shares account. Now, I found out in a very, very painful manner that it is also important to think about your withdrawals and how that is going to be treated, right? So last year, after I broke my ankle and things were looking bad, and I needed money, one of the things that I went to was one of my tax-free savings accounts that I had started 2 years before I started this one. So this one was sitting with FNB, but it was also a tax-free shares account. Now, when you log into your FNB app, you are able to see how much the portfolio is worth, right? So mine, I think, was worth like 97,000 Rand, and I wanted to withdraw the whole 97,000 Rand. One, the withdrawal was not immediate, so it's very important also to remember that the withdrawal is not going to be immediate, especially on a shares one. Why? Because remember, you've bought assets, you've bought shares, you've bought unit trusts, you've bought maybe ETFs, maybe you've bought REITs, maybe you've bought bonds within that TFSA. So what they need to do is to go and putting in an instruction. The withdrawal is actually an instruction to sell those units, and then the money that they make from selling is what you will then get back. So keep that in mind, because maybe your portfolio says you've got 97,000 when you log in. But if they're selling, and let's say you put in your instruction maybe at 3 o'clock, it means that the sale will probably take place in the next day, right? It's not going to take place immediately. So it means that tomorrow the cost of those units might either bring down the value of your portfolio or that specific investment that you've got, or it might bring it up. So instead of 97,000, you might withdraw maybe 94,000, or you might be able to withdraw 100,000. Again, depending on whether those units or those assets have appreciated over that little 24 hours or however long it takes for them to be able to actually initiate that instruction that you've put in for them to be able to sell. That is very important for you to remember. And that's also what differentiates between the tax-free savings account that is invested in the money market versus a tax-free shares account that is invested in the stock market, bond market, real estate market, all of those different markets where the asset allocation now is extended beyond just money market accounts. So the second last thing that I want to talk a little bit about is, of course, the tax portion of all of this, right? So when you think about your asset allocation, it's important for you to understand what is tax exempt and what is not. What is tax efficient and what is not? So earlier on, I had spoken a little bit about having money market accounts, high yielding interest rates accounts, retail bond account. All of these accounts are going to be earning me interest. So I'm going to get interest income. Now remember that SARS, through its act, allows for individuals under the age of 65 to have an exemption of 23,800 before they can actually start getting taxed. So what that means is that you can earn interest income up to 23,800, and that will be tax-free. So SARS will not levy any tax on that. Anything above that will start getting taxed, obviously, at the tax bracket in which you are in, right? Or your income that is tax liable is in. So put that on the one side. Then think about if you are taking up a tax-free savings account. Does it make sense for you to wrap up those types of investments or savings account with inside of a tax-free savings account where already there is a tax benefit? It does not make sense, right? So what you need to consider is the fact that what you are putting with inside of your tax-free savings account, if you already have the types of accounts that already give you interest income, then it means that inside the tax-free savings account, you should not be putting in any types of interest income or income type of assets. It means that you can use that tax-free savings account to rather wrap up assets that are not tax-free, but now you create them to be tax-free because you've put them inside a tax-free wrapper. But of course, this again speaks to your financial goals and your investment goals. My goals, as I said in the beginning, is growth, long-term growth. I'm trying to build wealth. I'm not looking for an income from this tax-free savings account. account. I'm rather looking to grow my wealth using the tax-free savings account, or rather this tax-free shares account that I've got from Coronation. So it's also important to consider what type of investment goal are you trying to achieve with this specific investment that you want to make, or the savings account that you want to make, and does it match up to what you already have? I think the second portion of that is redundancy, right? If you are sitting and you are actually doing an analysis of your investment portfolio, you need to look at where you might be overdoing certain asset classes. So if I have now a TFSA that is investing in money markets, but I still have a retail bond account, I have a money market account, I have a high yielding interest rates account, and then I take similar type of accounts and wrap them up in my TFSA, it's redundant. It means that I'm overly allocating money to the money market, right? Instead of looking at growth types of markets like your equity market, the real estate market, crypto markets, all of those things. That means that I'm literally saying that I'm going to put my money, majority of it, into income-based, but my goal is growth. So it's a little bit, it's counterintuitive if you're going to be doing that. So it's very important, once again, to be well aware of the makeup of your existing investment portfolio when you are going to be choosing a tax-free savings account. Number one. Number two is to look at what is my actual investment goal. And number three, again, I spoke about it in a video before this, is to look at your risk profiling. What is your risk tolerant, what's the risk that is required, and what is your risk capacity. Then the last thing, of course, is let's do some mathematics. Very simple mathematics that I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to be looking at what is the projected return that whatever tax-free savings account you're using is giving you. Most of them, always when they're using examples, they use 10%, right? So if you're looking at a 10% return on your TFSA, and let's say you are looking at the lifetime of a TFSA, which the lifetime of it is 500,000, that is the limit. However, after 500,000 has been reached, you stop contributing, right? So your contributions then stop. That will usually take you 13 years and 9 months, right? So after 13 years and 9 months, that 36,000 per year up to 500,000 Rand limit on a 10% return, but I'm going to adjust it for inflation with 5% because we don't know what inflation is going to look like for those next 13 years. But if I average out inflation to 5%, you are essentially going to make 1,081,000 roundabout, right? This is now the future value of the money that will be in your account, but this is nominal, which means that it does not take the 5% inflation adjustment into consideration. So if you do take the 5% inflation consideration, after the 13 years, you're going to have 553,000 in real money today. So what does that mean? So remember, there is the real money or the real value of your money today, so the present value, and then there's also what we call a future value. Now, the present value is how much value can you get out of that amount of money in today's real terms, right? So in today's real term, but in 13 years' time, it means that you are able to buy what you can buy with 553,000 Rand today. But this is, again, adjusted for inflation, right? So adjusted at the 5% for inflation. If it is us looking at the nominal return at the 10%, remember 10% is nominal. The nominal return means that it has not been adjusted for inflation. It has not had any management fees or financial planner or fund manager commissions deducted from it. So this is the nominal return. In 13 years, that money will sit, and the balance that you will see in your bank account will be the 1,081,000 Rand. So it's very important to take these things into consideration. But think about it. In 13 years, in real money, you will be able to withdraw 553,000 cash money, and SARS is not going to tax it. So that is the power of compounding that happens on an account like this. Of course, we can calculate what the future value of the 553 to give you a future value of it adjusted for inflation in 13 years' time. I think I'm going to leave it at that, and I will see you guys on the next one.